to my second video, and this video is all about primers. Now that I've applied all my skincare, my skin is feeling very hydrated, my skin is feeling fresh, and I feel I'm ready to start applying my makeup. Now primer is the first step to your makeup, and as far as I'm concerned, primers were the best invention ever, especially in the makeup industry. When I was younger, there was no such thing as primers. So what does a primer actually do? So the primer only has one job. It's a very important part, it's a very important product and a step in your makeup. It actually predominantly just does one thing. And what does the primer do and what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to create a layer between your skin and your makeup. Now what does that mean? Your skincare is essentially for your skin to absorb, and your makeup is essentially to sit on top of your skin. Now what happens is that if you're like me, I cannot do makeup 10 times a day. If you're doing makeup for 2 hours or 1 hour, or you're just going for dinner, let's be honest, you can do without a primer. But if you're somebody like me who needs to wake up in the morning and put on her makeup, and then she wants the makeup to last the whole day, because I mean, come on, how many times are you going to reapply the makeup, right? So I leave the house once in the morning and I want my makeup to last the whole day. So the primer actually gives you the longevity of your makeup. So it doesn't let the makeup seep into your pores. So now what happens is, if you wear makeup for too long, there's a chance that your makeup is going to clog your pores, enter your pores, and your skin is going to become rough, or your skin is going to have different types of reactions. Now we want to keep our skin spotlessly clean. Yes, you do your exfoliation for keeping your skin clean, you do your hydrofacials, you do all of that, but on a regular basis, I mean, you're not going to go get a hydrofacial every single day, right? So to keep the pores from clogging, that's when you use the primer. It will give you a layer. It's like a layer of protection, to be very honest, for your skin. So you apply the primer on your skin, and then when you put on the makeup, you know that for 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, because there are different kinds of primers in the market that we're going to talk about. So you know that it's going to give you that longevity. And if you're somebody, because most of us leave the house once and then come back in the evening, and we have to do 10,000 different things in that day. So we have to wear makeup for a longer period of time. Like we wear our sunscreen. So the sunscreen, what is it doing? It's giving you a layer between your skin and the sun so that your skin will not get damaged. The primer also essentially does the same thing. Obviously the sunscreen is concentrating more on the rays and everything. This concentrates more on clogging your pores. Now how many kinds of primers are there in the market? Oh my god, thousands and thousands and thousands of primer. I think there is no makeup brand anymore that doesn't do a primer. Now primer is somewhere you can save the money. You don't need to get a very expensive primer. You don't need to go for a high-end brand. You can actually just do with any primer. But as I said in my previous video, the makeup brands are supposed to confuse you. There are actually some brands that have seven different kinds of primers. Now it is so confusing. You go into the market, you don't know which primer you need to buy. You have primers with color correction, you have primers that are hydrating, you have primers that are, keeping your skin matte. There are so many primers. What to do? How should we buy them? What should we go for? We're gonna talk about that. So we're talking about primers. Now there's a lot of different kinds of primers in the market. One gets very confused. Again, as I said in my previous video, the more confused you are, the more product you're going to buy, and the more product you're going to buy, of course it's going to be better for the makeup brands. So we're going to talk about primers, which ones you need, and honestly it's not that difficult. The job of a primer is to do one thing, and that is to give a layer between your skin and your makeup, so the longevity, as I said before, for your makeup increases. Again, it doesn't increase to unlimited amounts of time for 24 hours, but 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, you can wear the makeup without damaging your skin, which means your pores will not get clogged and your skin will remain protected. Now which brands should we go for? Again, every brand now has a primer, or some have multiple primers. There are primers with color correction in it, there's primers for hydration, there's primers which are silicone, there's primers for this, primers for that. It's okay. Don't get confused. You don't need to get confused about primers. I will tell you exactly which ones you need. So when it comes to primers, what you need to remember is two basic things. There are two essentially different kinds of primers. One is a regular primer and one is a pore filler primer. If your pores are very big and if your pores are very open, then you use a pore filler primer. Otherwise, you can just use a regular primer. Any regular primer which is silicone based, it can be from any brand. Again, it can be from a drugstore brand, local brand, or high-end brand. That's all you need. A silicone primer, what it essentially looks like is it's transparent in color and it looks like this gel form. And when you rub the gel form, it's just going to sit on your skin, and what it does is that it mattifies your face or your under eye, wherever you want to put it. It also helps with the sweating procedure. So these are all examples of a silicone based product. It can be Huda, It can be Smashbox, it can be a local brand, it can be a drugstore brand, it can be anything. So when it comes to a primer, all of these primers will serve exactly the same purpose. This is a local brand, this is a drugstore brand, this is a high-end brand, this is a Huda brand. So any product, it doesn't matter what brand it is, again, it's your budget. These are all silicone based products, right? So silicone based primers, they usually don't have any smell and they usually don't have any color. Now when you go into the market, you're going to find a lot of primers which come with color correction in them. Now primers with color correction is mixing too many things together. Your primer is not supposed to moisturize, your primer is not supposed to hydrate, your primer is not supposed to color correct. All these things need to be done in different steps. So when you keep everything in a certain step, that's how the product works. So you don't need to waste your money on all these color correcting primers. Again, all these primers are there to confuse you and you should not get confused. Then there are certain primers that are hydrating primers. Now if you have very dry skin, then you can go ahead and use a hydrating primer, again from any brand that you want. If you have the money, you can go for an Armani. If you don't have too much money, you can go for Huda. And if you don't have a lot of money at all, then you can go with a drugstore brand. So it all depends what your budget is. You will keep hearing me repeat this in all my other videos as well. Brand doesn't matter. Price doesn't matter. What you can afford, that's what matters. The product matters, technique matters, tool matters. So if you know something is good for you, if you know something suits your skin, how do you know something suits your skin? Once you go makeup shopping, you put it on your skin, you roam around the shop. If it doesn't irritate you, if there's no rash, if there's no reaction, that's a product that suits you. So primers are actually very easy to apply and primers are also very easy to purchase because it just needs to be a nice silicone based primer, and any primer that's not irritating your skin, that's the one you need to get. If you feel that your skin is very dry even after all the skincare that you've done and you need to get a hydrating primer, that's when you go ahead and get a hydrating primer. So just for example, I will show you 4 different kinds of primers. This is Smashbox. Smashbox is not very cheap, not very expensive. It's going to cost you around $20 to $30 and that's what you're going to spend on it. Then you've got Maybelline. Maybelline is a drugstore brand. Again, I think you should get this for $7 to $8, $10 maximum. So that's a cheaper one. This one is also silicone. This one is also silicone. Then you have NYX. NYX is again not very expensive. So you will buy this primer maybe for $25. Then you have brands like Huda. Huda's primer is going to cost you around $40. And then in the end, if you want to go for high end, you can go for Armani. This is going to cost you around $60. All of these primers do exactly the same thing. So don't get confused. Go and try on a primer. If it doesn't hurt your skin, if it doesn't give you a rash, if it doesn't react with your skin, that's the primer you should go with. Now let's talk about the other kind of primer. That is a pore filler primer. So a pore filler primer is always going to say a pore filler primer. Even if you need a pore filler primer, you need a regular primer. First take that primer, put it on your fingers and then apply it all over your face. And then take the pore filler primer. It comes like this or it can come in a stick form. The only difference between both of these primers is that one is thicker than the other. That's it. So once you apply your regular primer on, then you take your pore filler primer and only apply it to the areas where you have open pores. I will show you. Now that we've talked about the product, let's talk about the tool. As far as the tool is concerned, again, wherever you can save the money, I'm always going to suggest you save the money. So you can apply your primer with a brush if you're working on a client for hygienic purposes, or when it comes to you, you can just use your fingers and apply the primer. Wherever we can save the money, we should definitely save the money. So now we've talked about the product, we've talked about the tool. Most important thing, let's talk about the technique. How are you going to apply this primer? So after you've got your skincare down, I'm going to take any of my silicone based primers. I'm going to open the primer and I'm going to put a pea size amount, which is this much if you can see, and I'm just going to rub it and I'm going to apply it like a moisturizer. In the areas where I have the pores. And that's it. Usually your makeup is not supposed to go under your jawline to your neck, so that's where we apply the primer till. If you're going to do makeup in your neck area, then you can obviously take the primer there. But we're concentrating more on the eye area, so we've put it under the eye, you can put it above the eye, and then you just let your primer be. Again, once you apply the primer, don't immediately put the makeup on. Give it a minute so that the primer settles onto your skin. And this primer is going to mattify your skin. It's not going to be patchy. It's not going to give you the illusion of your skin being oily. So all the moisturizing and all the skincare that you've done, it's actually going to sit everything in place. Now let's go ahead and apply the pore filler primer. So pore filler primer, this is by NYX. Again, you can go with any brand. This is what it looks like, and only the areas where I have open pores or more pores, I'm going to take this and I'm going to just apply it in this area. So this can come in this form on my top of my nose, or this can come in a bottle form as well. And now I applied the other primer like a moisturizer, but this primer I'm not going to spread around. I'm just going to press it into place, and I'm not going to move it around too much. Why? Because when you have the open pores, you have crevices. So we've put the primer and now we're just putting it inside the crevices. So when you do your makeup, it's going to give you the illusion, it's going to fill in the crevices, and it's going to give you the illusion of having smoother skin. So wasn't that easy? There's not much to primer at all. Now it's going to give you the longevity of 12 hours. So I'm going to wait a minute and then I'm going to start doing my makeup. I hope that clears all your misconceptions about primers, what to buy, how to buy it. You know about the product, you know your fingers are your best tool, and the technique is very, very simple. So after we've applied the primer, let's go to the next video so we can talk about color correction.